Hello, loves. I am so excited to have an incredibly beautiful, wonderful guest today, Sierra Fath, who is an incredibly gifted creative goddess, interior designer, and feng shui expert. Welcome, Sierra.
Thank you, Amanda. I'm so happy to be here with you.
So honored and so happy to have you here, love. And thank you for coming and sharing your wisdom with us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Oh. Well, I'm really excited because I know you have been doing like and do amazing work in the world, interior design, creatively, and creating beautiful spaces. And I think a lovely way to start would be from interior design. What kind of made you go, oh, I want to explore feng shui, or how that kind of came together?
So, I started out as an artist. That's how I got into the creative field. I always was interested in architecture, but didn't want to be an architect. And so, interior design kind of was my way to connect um, art and using buildings and spaces as my canvas. And so I started doing interior design about 10 years ago, and I love it. But I will say there was always part of me that felt like I wanted more. I wanted more of a little more depth, I think, because um, I truly, honestly don't care that much about the aesthetics. I mean, I know that we do want spaces to look nice, but really I care much more about how they feel. And so I just through doing my own personal work, finding, going deeper into my own spirituality and stuff, it connected and was in line with this whole, career shift that I was forming. And I thought, how can I deepen interior design? How can I learn more about really what goes into making a space feel different, good and bad, right? Sometimes you walk into a space and you're like, this feels weird or this feels off. And so I was just so intrigued on like, well, why? Why? Right. And so then my acupuncturist at the time, she had just this energy that I hadn't experienced before. She was a very, very awesome awesome woman to encounter. And she told me during one of our sessions that she also does feng shui. And I was like, oh, please tell me more about that, and she told me a little bit of it. So she put the bug in my ear a while back, but it took about a year and a half or two to find you, Amanda. And as soon as I did, as soon as I saw your face on your website, I knew that that's what I needed to do. I needed to study feng shui, and that can be my way of really understanding the feeling within spaces, and how to fold that into interior design so that we can tackle the look and feel. So I'm really excited.
Oh, I love that. And I know you are an incredible artist. Like, I feel like the creativity just pours out of every cell in all that you do. But of course, your art that you're creating. And I love that it's always been as well about environment. So the interior design is like, okay, that made total sense. But then as that depth and that, like, I suppose, that spiritual journey where we deepen our roots, but we want to have that higher frequency, that higher consciousness, then it's like, okay, well, I like this, interior design, the home and the art come together, but what about the soul? you know, and then that's where feng shui came in. Love that. That's so beautiful. And I'm so happy we found each other.
Oh, I'm so grateful.
And I love that you're incredible acupuncturist because also practice feng shui and she like planted that seed. I love that. And um, with Chinese medicine, all the different branches, there's acupuncture, herbs, and feng shui is just another one of the branches. And like
Right.
I do feel like beauty in the space is very important. Like it because like to look around and see the beauty, like our five senses, right? And we talk about one of those in feng shui, the five senses and the sight sha or the sight chi, like the Shaw being the not so positive energy and the chi. So I think that is important, but you're right, it's like the feel. So once you kind of were like, okay, I'm ready to start studying. What was that journey like for you as you started to study, like on a personal level? And was there shifts in your life throughout even the studies and integrated into your own home?
Oh, yes. I mean, it was the biggest transformation for me. I mean, I took a while to finish your course. You were very patient with me, thank you. And I love that it was self-paced, and that was huge, and you were always such a guiding light for me whenever I felt, I was getting a little stuck or, felt behind sometimes, and you'd say, "You're not behind, you're right on track." And you're right about that because it is about our own divine timing. And so while I started feng shui school, all these different things in my own personal life shifted. And I think that's no coincidence, right? At all. It's just not. It's just not. And I love all of it. It it went hand in hand with me wanting to dabble into other forms of energy work. And it all ties into, again, me finding my own, or deepening my own spirituality as well. And so I think as I learned feng shui and implemented it into my own home, because that's how you practice, right? Um, I mean, more helpful people, for instance, helpful people in travel, right? More helpful people came into my life. Collaborators and contractors that I work with. And it's just been beautiful. And then, career has certainly shifted already. Because I would get busy sometimes, it definitely contributed to me slowing down on feng shui school, but that's okay. And I would say that the most moving part of all of it for me was how much more connected I felt to spirit and my high self and my environment, nature, everything. My pets, my loved ones, my fiance, everything. I just felt like there was this new layer of connection all around. And it's because of the teachings, I believe, of feng shui. It really opens your eyes and gives you this awareness to how important your home is since it's your nest, And when you remedy your nest, you are in such a better state to tackle all these different aspects of your life, even family and relationships, love, all that stuff. So it's been incredible. It was absolutely life changing.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And thank you for sharing all that. And, I always say, it is all of our birthright to have this sanctuary, this sacred space that, no matter what goes on in the outside world, whatever's going on in our lives, we come home and we're just feeling like we get this hug. And when we realize that our environment is a reflection of how we're feeling internally and how we can raise that and how we can it's almost like we have the whole universe in our space. And as you said, if we want to improve family relationships or romantic relationships or improve our career or our spiritual journey and connection, like we work on it in the internal, as we've talked about, but how we can also bring all those pieces together in our space. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that on the personal level. And then I love that through the studies, you worked on career, so it was getting busier. And so it's like, oh, and it is divine timing. And thank you for saying that because we always say there's no such thing as being behind in life in general, because then that turns into control and forcing and pushing. And we know that it's about being in divine flow and trusting in the divine timing because that's just how it is, so I love that. So then now that you've integrated into your own home and life and because then you really embody it and you feel like, okay, now I can share this because wow, look at how it shifted my life and people in my life. Now I'm ready to share this. So I'd love to know with your beautiful artistry and your interior design, how did it look for you integrating the pair of them, and how did that work?
Well, I'm rebranding now, um,
Wow.
to bring it in, and it's going to come out in fall, my rebrand. It's gonna be called Transcending Home. Um, Instead of, I've been Fath Design, which is my last name, Fath Design for the last 5 years, but through this journey, I realized, I would love to have my business, become more of an idea rather than me, rather than my name, and, just because that's how I feel I want to, promote the business itself, the transcending home. I want people to think, "Ooh, okay, well, what does that mean?" And it's like, if you go on my website, you'll say, "Well, it can just be interior design if you just wanna deal with the outer layer, but if you want to really shift the space even more, that's where feng shui would come in. And then if you wanna do even more and, like, soul work, that's where we'll get into the other energy work."
I
But
love this.
I'm excited about it, but, so it's actually still in the phase of brewing, so, I have had some clients already who I've done interior design for already want me to do some feng shui for them, and they have, given me really positive feedback on their results. So that has been very validating, and, you know, I know it works. I believe feng shui works. You know it works, but you don't wanna have to convince anybody, right?
The thing is, it emanates out of every cell and every pore, like, when you're just like, "It works," there's just I don't need to I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever sold it, it just is. So, if you'd like to share with us, because you've with some of your or like present, interior design clients that you've been implementing feng shui in, would you like to share, some things that you implemented something and you noticed shifts or that they shared they had shifts? Is there anything you'd like to share with us around that?
Yeah, well, my one she's a dear friend too. She, for instance, um, wanted more money flow, right? And she has a beautiful, gorgeous house. She's actually an interior designer as well, which is funny.
Mhm.
Um, we like to collaborate on some projects and things. She has a fountain in the front of her yard, but it was broken for a long time. That's a cute one I like because it was a small, shift, but boy, did it open things up for her. So once I said, "Oh, I really would advise you to fix the fountain that you have in the front of your house." And, she's right away, "Okay, I'll do it right away," and she did. And, within a couple weeks, few weeks, she started having more money flow and wealth and prosperity, which was beautiful. So I love that one. That was just like one little twist. She did other stuff in her house, but, like, that was the one, quickest.
And the nice thing, of course, you already had the fountain there, right? And it is so interesting because we know water is associated with finances. Like when there's leaking taps and faucets, like definitely it's leaking money or leaking roofs, that's whole next level. Or even like the blocked drains, blocked emotion, like water, like it's about flow, feng shui, wind and water. So when the water is leaking or not flowing, it has dramatic, I think emotionally, financially, and just the flow in general. So I love that. And I think even the relationship around that is anything that is broken in our home that should have a function, whether it's a stove that's not working, the mirror that's cracked, the front door that's not working properly, like the doorbell where the energy comes in. Like it's just fixing broken things that can have such a profound uh, like effect, right?
Mm.
So okay, so tell us more. What other even like small or bigger things that you felt like you've done that have kind of had impact?
Well, I had this family where, a few members of the family were having argument more
Oh,
often than usual.
yeah, yeah.
And so, I just looked at they all wanted to be involved though in the consult. A lot of energy. But I was like, "All right, let me look at this." And of course, I wanted to be mindful of, not trying to point out, who I bet is fighting with who or whatever. I recommended some different remedies in their house, and they all were very excited to work on them together. So I think not only did the actual remedies help with the energy within the space, where like, youngest son, that section was a little off, and things like that. So, we were doing the remedies, but so that helped their family dynamic, but also I think them working together and learning about feng shui, and then them all getting excited to go figure, okay, well, what do we want to get for this remedy and this remedy? And, they're messaging me like, hey, is this okay? Would this work for the metal? And stuff like that. And they they were just working as a unit. And so that was really beautiful for me to witness as well, because I do love that family a lot.
It can be a whole different energy working with one person functioning the space versus maybe a couple, which is a whole next level, but an entire family, like that is a lot. But the beauty of that is if there is space for it, everybody is seen and heard and witnessed. Because I think one challenge can be when it comes to doing feng shui is if only one person's doing it and there's more than one person in the household, like everybody needs to be honored in the space. And if there's changes, like it's such a personal thing, how beautiful that everybody gets to have a say. And especially if it's their space or their bedroom or their space of study, or even where everybody gathers in a living room or something. So I that was very brave and sounds like very successful as well, you know?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say so. And, I've gotten a lot of feedback as well from people just focusing even on their own trigram, their personal trigrams. So like sleeping better because they now are betting that feeds their element, so those are cute little quick things as well, where it really has made differences in people's sleep, or their support behind them when they're working, if they're working from home and stuff. And that happened for me as well. So I practice what you preach, right? So when we when we changed our bedding to the water element, which would help feed my element, and is this a supportive element for my fiance, it was the one that we had in common that we could do.
Oh, I
So
love this.
right. Trying our best to find it. And that worked for us, and I definitely think that it made a huge difference for how I sleep, you
Oh,
know?
good. And important because a good night's sleep and sleeping well just is such a game changer. It really is. I have a question for you. So, as an interior designer and an artist, do you find bringing and integrating the feng shui into it? Um, is it anything contradictory, or do you find that they flow well together?
I find that they flow well. I do. I think that, sometimes there could be difficulties with the room, like the shape of the room, or something we're not really gonna change, right? Where the window is or whatever. Like really their bed should be up against that wall, but there's a window there, and stuff like that. And you know, for our for our next house that we're moving into, I think that's a great example. Interior design wise, our bed really would look better on another wall,
Yeah.
but that goes out the window because we need to be in our best direction. So we're putting it on another wall instead. So there's I think going to be times where you have to kind of pick and choose a little bit, but I believe it's all a balance.
Yeah,
You
it is.
know, if a client is really preferring one layout of the room or something, then we go with that, and then we just find other ways that we'll be able to support them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I think that and that's one thing that I've moved away from a lot, like the rigidity that feng shui. I feel like when I learned it, and I'm always studying it and deepening that, but like over 25 years ago, it was such like this has to be this way, and it's like actually no, um, like who are you? What are your dreams, hopes, and desires, and love, and what brings you joy? And this is your space in your home, and you have your own innate deep knowing what feels good for you, what you want. And then how can we work together? There's no rigidity here. And then there's something like we can bring in curiosity and go, well, okay, if we did position it that way, the bed that way, or working that way, or eating that way, or sitting that way, let's try that. Try that for a month, see how you feel, see how well you sleep, see how well workflow goes. But if we put you maybe in the queen king position, the command position, the best direction, let's see how all those things happen. And we'll just through trial and error, and I do that in my own home and life, and work with that with clients. And I love that, just being flexible and feeling into it. Because people want you to come in and share your knowledge and wisdom, but also really listening to them. And it sounds like you do a beautiful job with that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I definitely have always, um, I'm grateful that I feel like communication with people it's always felt very natural. And people open up to me. And, so a lot of times I'll joke with my clients, that I'm not just their interior designer, I'm their therapist as well. And when they're, but I actually think really they do go hand in hand a bit because, we're again tackling the nest, we're tackling their home, we may be beautifying a space, if they're just hiring me to, say, redo their bathroom or whatever. We may be trying to just beautify that space, but such a collaborative process and it's intimate. It's where you shower. It's where you, it's all this stuff. And
There's one thing if somebody's having a therapy session in an office, going in to somebody, so and like, part of we know, like the questionnaire at the beginning of the journey together is, I'm sure you have your interior design questions like what are your goals for your home, whatever. But then we're like, okay, how is love? How are you feeling in your soul? Like, how is abundance? How is health? Like we want to know all the areas. So already at that stage, people have opened, and then it's like people have shared with me, as I'm sure with you, that like it's a really vulnerable thing when you walk into their space. It's like, you know, being totally naked, have somebody come in, because as feng shui consultants, as empaths, as people that work with energy and having the knowledge of feng shui, it's like, well, we're like little detectives because everything is like a telltale sign of what's going on in somebody's life, like the blocked drains or the leaking or the burnt out light bulbs, they're burnt out, or the loose door handles, they don't have a firm grip on life, or single artwork, they're probably like, it's like between feeling the energy, running the flying stars, what the client shares, being in their energy, like it's a very vulnerable process, and it's not something that we take lightly, right?
right, right. And I have found that a lot of clients, you know, will apologize for their house.
I know.
Right? Like, they'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry, it's a huge mess," or, "Oh, I was, up so late last night, I didn't have time to clean that." And I always say, "There's no judgment. There's no judgment." Or I'll try to make them feel better sometimes too and be like, "Oh, you should see my kitchen right now." Like,
I know.
if I had, a thing come up too, we wanna try to keep our spaces clear, but life happens.
Yeah,
Life
absolutely,
happens.
absolutely.
And so I just try to make that, I try to help clients a lot with kind of letting their guard down a bit, and I think they feel that, and I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful about that.
And isn't that another little telltale sign and another little reflection as well? Because it's how we feel about our space, and even things like everything is information. Like, well, I always say we're like detectives. And so when somebody draws a picture of their floor plan, like some people have this perfect, and of course nowadays you've got these wonderful units, like lots of great apps. You zip around a room and it takes all the measurements and you put it into an app. But like sometimes what people send is written, like, I mean, really hand drawn, like, not very accurate. That in itself gives insight about how somebody sees their home or how they speak of their home. And gosh, my home with two kids, like my type of feng shui. I was just talking about this the other day, shifted so much when I kids. I used to be going in and be like, oh my God, the kids are only supposed to have like 4 to 8 toys out. And now you're to see like I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for all the people like pre-kids, like that I used to be like, and so now it's like, yeah, 4 to 8 toys, good luck on that one. Like so it's like through our journey within our own spaces allows us to have so much more compassion and understanding. And of course, like, we know the effect of a lot of clutter has on us and our homes and
Mhm.
our spaces and our children and, partners and everything like that.
Yeah, and, I think it's really empowering to have the tools to know how you can make every room feel, the best once you've experienced it, right? Once you do declutter everything and you have your colors and your supportive elements and all this beautiful stuff around you. You've brought plants in, like all those things. The light is good, and just knowing that that can kind of be your goal, right? That can, you can try to get back to that anytime you can. But if something happens and you're having a busy week, or your pets are sick or something like that happens, and then the room doesn't feel so perfectly perfect or whatever, um that, well, okay, like now I know what to do though, right? Now I know what to do when I do have time. And I think that's a beautiful awareness to have, and I like to tell people, like, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just want it to be positive.
Oh, I love that. So having the tools to get things back into balance when they come out of balance, because that's part of life, the messiness of life, the lifeiness of life, so
Yeah. Yeah, and there's beauty in that too, because, for me, I wanna keep my house as decluttered and, as possible, but if things are happening in my life and I look around and there's more clutter than I normally would want, I'll look at that and say, "Okay, okay, I see the clutter, so what's going on? What's going on inside me now?" Right? And so it helps me to not only clear the space, but clear my inner space too. And again, that awareness has just been life-changing. And I would have to think that for, clients too, that they feel the same way.
oh, that's so beautiful. I feel so filled up from this conversation and just hearing about like how you share your wisdom and your gifts and this whole beautiful holistic approach that you bring to your clients from your creative gifts, your intuitive gifts, the wisdom, the knowledge, the compassion, the love that you lead with. Like, so it's so beautiful. And I love that, like, Transcendent Home. Like, that is so, so beautiful. Thank you for sharing so much with us today. And I would love to see if, for all our listeners now, if you had, let's say, 3 simple little things that don't really cost any money that you would suggest that people could do that could create little shifts, what would they be?
Well, I think bringing as much nature inside. So, plants, buying plants, even if they aren't expensive ones, if you get little ones, they'll grow, that has been huge for me because it's not just the beauty of seeing them, but they have this gorgeous energy about them and they clean your air, and it's just bringing outside in. So that's huge. That's like my number one. I'm sure my clients are tired of hearing me say bring plants in. Um,
All over the space. I'm like you. It's like, oh, put in, bring, put outside, but bring them in too.
I think that something else that's really beautiful, and this is something that's not so easy for everybody, but I just ask them to let go, is to create their own art, and have that be up on their walls, even if it isn't good or they don't think it's, Picasso or whatever. Like they, them putting the energy into making something for their wall, for their space, something that they're proud of. I think that's really important as well. So that wouldn't cost much money because that's something they're just doing and it's very therapeutic.
No, my
Did you
background
make that?
no, it isn't. It wasn't me. I 'cause it's the same painting I've always had for years, but it's just gonna keep taking on different lives. But my children, and I had a little piece to do, but we just put it in the backyard. I have photos of them, paint all over them, and they were just like just outside. And so it just keeps evolving and taking. And so,
Oh,
oh,
yes.
I love it. And look, mom, 6 months in a year, let us know when you want us to shift it again. You know what I mean?
Yes, I love that, I love that. It's funny you say that because I was thinking that in my head, like, that people can also change. They can add to their canvas or, paint over it and start fresh, whatever you wanna do. I mean, I think that's beautiful, and then there's history behind the paintings and the layers. It's gorgeous.
All the love that's put into it, you know?
A
So
lot of love. Yeah.
you bring
Yeah.
nature in
Yes.
your own art, like, and I love that even if you wrote a song or you wrote a poem or a photo that you took and you blow it up and frame it, like any of the above, is so powerful. And even flower arranging is another
Right,
form of your art, right? But I
right.
love that. I love that.
So, like, even right here in my office, like I write lyrics on big canvases a lot for.
Will you read that for us? I'd love to hear what
Oh,
that is.
sure. It's a Lord Huron lyric, and it says, out there's a river that winds on forever. I'm gonna see where it leads. Oh, there's a mountain that no one has mounted. I'm gonna stand on the peak. And I love that. So it's like, even for people who maybe they're not, they don't feel like they're super artsy or whatever, they can just write on a canvas something that they love. It could be a poem, it could be music, it could be a quote, it could be anything that inspires them, and that is artwork. That's artwork right there, and it's a message, like you say in Feng Shui, it's the artwork's like subliminal messages, and boy, whenever I see that, I'm like, "Oh, I can take on the world. Yeah, I can stand on the peak," you know?
I love
So even stuff like that where it's not, it's writing. So that's a great way to put art on the walls as well. Yeah, and I think the third thing, um the third thing would be the decluttering. I think that's free. That's free. And we feel it. When we give away and donate things that we no longer are using, I like to tell myself, "Okay, I'm not serving all this clothing by not wearing it. Let me give it to another person who really would love it." And that helps me to let go of it when I know that it's going to help someone else. They might love it more than I do, right? And then the decluttering, it just feels so good. You're letting go of some of that stuff that's on your shoulders, and so I think if you can do that anywhere and everywhere in your house, it really does make a huge difference.
Mm. Oh my
Those are the
gosh,
3 things I think I would suggest first, yeah.
I love this. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for being here with us, and thank you for all the amazing work you do in the world, and thank you for sharing your beautiful wisdom and life. And why don't you tell us, it's gonna be in the show notes anyway, but your new website so we can all look it up, and I know you do beautiful social media sharings and everything, so share with us where we can find you.
Sure. Well, right now, my website and social media is still under Fath Design. So that's FATH Design, but it is linked to my new stuff. So whether you type one in or the other, you'll come to the same place. So the Transcending Home is going to be my handle for Instagram, and my website's www.thetranscendinghome.com. And on there, you'll get to see the different offerings. You'll also see my artwork on there too, because I make artwork for people's spaces as well, and custom pieces, or if you just see something in the inventory that you like. Um, I would love to down the road have artwork that is specific to different remedies. So have a
I love that.
for the fire remedy or for the metal remedy. So that'll happen, at the right time. But
Absolutely.
there's definitely a lot of artwork on there already, and yeah, custom. commissions are always an option for
Oh,
sure.
that's amazing. So for now, they can go on and see it, and we'll have it in the show links. And you have beautiful artwork that is high vibrational, like feng shui, beautiful energy. So, oh, you're amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your time. Just loved every moment with you.
Thank you. Me too, Amanda. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for all you do for making the world better. You really do. You really, really do.
Thank you, love. Such an honor chatting with you.